Hello, Quincy. Mayor Tom Koch here with our COVID-19 update. Today's stats, we got 1,051 confirmed cases, 94 deaths, 471 have recovered. In total cases in Massachusetts are a little over 80,000. And we talk about cases recovering. I think it's worthy to point out that many people do not get really sick. Few people end up in the hospital with this. So, these numbers can be a little daunting, I guess, if you look at it a certain way. So I want to keep you informed. We're still waiting on the governor's next interpretation, if you will, of the phasing that he's talked about, the 4 phases in the coming weeks. In the meantime, we continue to trudge along here in Quincy. And we have a big city with a lot of great departments. And one of my longtime associates, Dave Murphy, has joined me today. Dave is the Commissioner of Natural Resources, and invited him on to talk a little bit about formally opening up the parks for limited use. And Dave, maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
Sure, thank you, Mayor. At your direction, we've developed a plan that will allow people to begin use of some of our recreational facilities. As you may know, a number of weeks ago we had to close the basketball courts and the tennis courts due to some concerns about social distancing. As of Monday the 18th, with the help of the recreation staff, we will be able to manage the opening of the basketball and tennis courts. The basketball courts will be restricted to single use only. The exception of a child under 12 can have a parent or guardian play with them. And tennis is singles use only.
Or in a basketball game, if a father came down with 3 sons, they
right,
could host around because they're living
family.
together. Yeah.
Right. And then we'd rent time in hour blocks so there'd be enough turnover. We've identified 22 different locations throughout the city to make sure there was geographic representation, so every neighborhood had the opportunity to walk down to a basketball court or potentially tennis court, depending on where they lived.
And some of these are lighted, so you go into the evening hours with some of these locations.
We're going to go 8:30 to 8:30 to try to keep it uniform across the city.
Okay. Now, I know in the past several weeks there's been some confusion, and I know we've had the police department helping us to really patrol some of the park areas, and I think some things get misinterpreted. People reached out over the weekend to me that they were asked to leave Faxon Park and they were just walking the trails. Well, that should not be a problem. We've kept the parks open for single use like that, jogging, walking, but it was the team play stuff where you can't social distance, which was the importance. Now we're getting into much better weather, and we've got some beautiful park spaces, so we do want to encourage people to use them under the limitations that the Department of Natural Resources has come up with. We've always had great park and rec programs in the city. I know we're talking now about what we're going to do for the summer. There's still some talk at the state level about the whole camp idea for the summer, what kind of guidance is going to be given. So, the typical summer programs we're still kind of playing around with. We're not sure what's going to happen because this thing really is a day-by-day situation. So generally speaking, though, the parks, are people cleaning up after themselves? Are we finding gloves and masks? Are we having that issue in the parks as well?
People are being pretty consistently aware of social distancing guidelines. We are seeing people taking down some of the bags and the zip ties at the nets. This plan is in large result not of relaxing the guidelines, but actually kind of managing them better. So right. People are using these parks. We want to make sure they use them appropriately. People have been very good about picking up after themselves when they do use the parks. We have a full complement of barrel stall at the parks. We encourage people, as they're cooped up in their house now for a couple of months, to get outside, get some aerobic exercise, get some fresh air, and enjoy the park system.
So you indicated that you're going to have to sign up ahead of time for tennis court use?
Yeah, we anticipate some of the locations.
How do they do that?
We'll have rec staff on hand with a clipboard. They'll come in and they'll say, I want to play tennis. Okay, we have a 9:30 spot that's already taken, but at 10:30 this court will be
Can they
open.
call ahead or get on the...
We're looking at a potential computer option, but haven't done that yet because we'd have to have mobile access for the rec staff on site. We don't have that just yet. If it becomes a demand where it requires that, we'll implement that. Our ultimate hope is that this is a short-term solution, not a long-term solution. Yep. So I don't want to necessarily invest in any of that technology just yet.
Sure. So in the meantime, your parkside staff will make sure that the tennis nets and courts are in good order, et cetera, et cetera.
Correct.
Okay.
The other piece, Mayor, I do want to highlight is what this is not. This is not the recreation camp program. We're waiting for guidance from the governor on that. This is simply staff overseeing the basketball and tennis courts. People should not send their kids down to the local neighborhood park anticipating the recreation leader is going to be there. They won't be identified as such, but this is not that program. And our tot lots will remain closed because the metal and plastic surfacing, there's still inconsistent information out there about the virus's ability to live on those surfaces.
Okay. All right, well, thank you, Commissioner, for joining us today. Keep up the great work in our park system. Folks, hopefully if you have any questions, of course, about this program, you can call the park office at
617-376-1251.
Excellent. Thanks again, David. Folks, stay safe out there. Appreciate you tuning in. Any questions in general about things, you can always call our office at 617-376-1990. Stay safe. God bless.